Nope, no test,
No
real
test
thing.
recording. We go
Yep,
we go for it.
exactly. Oh, do you want to start with student positives? Something that students did well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had three student defenses of different types, and one of them was shared with you. All three of them did really great, successful projects. Super exciting. It's the end of the term, and so everyone's trying to finish up and like move ahead. And so yeah, super proud of all those students. I know one in particular was very anxious about presenting and knocked it out of the park, did the thing. Now we have that experience and we can move forward. So that was a huge win. And then I think I have another one, but it's blanking at this point. So if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I'll start off with yes, I had students defend as well. They passed. They did amazing. I'm so proud of them. Um, in my lab, I had two things happen. One, a student, I had them do readings, and a student came that had missed the previous class and had did the reading, and they were asking me questions about the reading, and these were they were unclear, and they felt like they didn't understand something, but really what it was a great question. And they were asking, like, how do we know that fluency occurred? Like, how do we test for fluency, right? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. Like they were like, oh, I just don't understand. I feel like I'm not getting it. I'm like, no, that's a great question. And the paper did go into it a little bit, but it's hard to, like, if it doesn't explicitly state it and you're just learning it, it's hard to understand. So one of the ways we know, well, first of all, fluency is the combination of accuracy plus speed that characterizes competent performance. Not just speed being everything being super fast, but a certain pace, because every behavior has a certain pace that competent performers perform at, right? So we need that time dimension. So that's the definition. But fluency helps students in all areas. I really like this acronym: application, retention, endurance, adduction, and stability. Fluency describes performance that is easily maintained, endures over time, is stable in the face of distraction, is readily applied to problems like ones that the students have already practiced, and is easily recruited to new problems. So I said, if you want to test for fluency, one of the ways that you do it is you test for these things. So test for stability. Can they perform at the same pace if they have distractions? So you could like play music, and if they can still like do math fact fluency at the same rate, then you have fluency. A lot of times when people are driving and if they have to like parallel park, they'll turn the music down, and then it's like, well, why do I turn the music down? It's like, well, you probably don't have fluency with that skill because you don't have to do it often. So you need to concentrate more. So you need fewer distractions in your environment. If you want to test for endurance, a lot of times we see a lack of endurance when students come back from winter or summer break and they are trying to perform a skill that they were taught before in the previous school year, and they can't do it, or they can't do it as fluently. And that's because the skill wasn't taught to fluency or a level of performance that was able to endure across time. I mean, for retention, I'm sorry, I'm talking about retention now. Retention is for if
I
it
mean,
hasn't
it
happened
kind
in a
of
long
bleeds
time.
in, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, endure, and for what endures over time, what I should have said is that it actually can last for a longer period of time. So let's say if instead of doing 1 minute timing, you do a 3 minute timing and you still keep that pace, then you are able to have that behavior endure over time. So that's how we test for fluency. And that was one of the things that I was explaining to him. And I was like, wow, what a great question from one of my students in my lab. Like, this is really coming together. And then we worked on something that I recognized because I was like, okay, we want to do some research on inner behavior. Everybody write a research question. And I was looking at the research questions and I was like, these research questions aren't where I want them to be. And that means that they probably haven't been taught explicitly how to write research questions. So I asked, I was like, have y'all been taught how to write research questions? They're like, nah, this is like, some of them haven't even done their dissertation yet. So I was like, oh, okay, well, next time we'll learn how to do research questions. So I whipped up PowerPoint thanks to one of my old professors, Dr. Richard Cabina, on writing experimental questions. Yeah, love the boy on writing experimental questions, and it was so cool because I like walked them through it. I kind of did behavior skills training with methodics, kind of walking them through, giving them example. I did it myself, and then we did it together, and then we broke it all down, and then I said, hey, use the ones that you did before, showed that before, and then now that you know, and I've taught you, why don't you try to do it again with but improve it, just improve whatever you had before with what you've learned now. And they were so much better, and they all understood. And I asked, like, hey, how did you guys feel? What did you guys think? Do you think that you benefited from that? And they said that they really felt like they did, and they appreciated it. And that was really amazing, because it was like I was like, this is teaching and this is learning a new skill that occurred across time that is different than it was before. I was just like, yeah, this is cool. Precision teaching lab, super nerdy. Yay.
And it's socially significant to your lab because all those students are eager about research and wanting to be involved in research. And so it's shocking to me at the master's and dissertation level how little we talk about actually making a study and forming a study. So, like you said, those skills aren't usually directly taught. It's just kind of like, okay, make your research question, now go. And then of course they're not going to look great because we don't know what to do. There aren't guides on how to do this. And so it's never the student's fault, in my opinion.
Yeah, the learner is always right. We said it in the podcast. We said the name of the podcast.
I guess I guess it's valid. And it's funny as you're talking about precision teaching. You know this, but I've taken on joining a band, a community band, and this has been like the third week of practice last night. And I have not played the flute for 25 years. We're not going to like talk about anything else about like my age in that regard, but I have not picked up my flute for 25 years. Each week I feel like I'm getting better, but the high notes I'm still struggling with. So I think I'm going to start a precision teaching program for myself on how I can develop that skill again. And I might start like charting it and doing all that. So I don't know why I hadn't like kind of considered that before, but I'm like, ooh, I should really do that because those notes just aren't sounding right and I need to really work on those so I don't sound terrible in the ensemble.
No, that's
Love it.
awesome. That's a good idea. And if you need a electronic chart for free,
Oh, I know
use
where to find
Jared
one.
Van, yeah, jaredvan.com/SCC. Shameless plug.
No, I'm fully aware I'm going to be using that resource. And do you see all of the data when people use it, or is it
No,
just kind of
I don't want to. I feel like that would be like, because
Big
people
Brother?
have said that
Yeah,
they want to use, yeah, and people have said that they want to use it for their clients and all that stuff. So I want it to be super protected and everything. They
transparency.
sign
That's great.
in, yeah, exactly. For both of my websites, I have created one specifically for research, so I can see
Hmm.
my participants' data. But the one that I've created, I don't see anybody's. I don't want that, and I want to learn how to create more protections so that I can like maybe one day get it like HIPAA compliant and all that. That would
Yeah,
be super dope. But for now, it's
that
just
would.
like here you can use it to create it, and then just print it out or whatever, and it'll stay. But like I can't see anything from my.
Well, that's good to also share with everybody in case, you're interested in using that, but you're concerned about privacy or confidentiality. So, cool. Glad that I asked that actually. Okay, yeah. Any other wins for the week?
Yeah, one more. I'll share this. Hold on. Let's figure out where I'm at here. Share screen. I have started a GoFundMe for
Ooh,
my research, and people have been
awesome.
amazing in donating. Basically,
Love
trying
it.
to get my article that has been accepted already to be open access. And to do that, I have to pay 3,390 US dollars. So I
That's
started a
outrageous.
GoFundMe. Yeah, you can donate Any number is good. Any support is good because I'm also trying to pay for a wedding. So, you know, I think that this study for reducing anxiety in students in middle school is really important and can help a lot of people. And making it free for everybody to access makes it so that people that don't have university emails or the money to be able to pay for the article can be able to access it and be able to use it with students who actually need it.
Right. No, this is wonderful. The way I tend to bypass that system is if you don't have a ResearchGate account, I encourage you to get a ResearchGate account. What I've had students do in the past is just email authors directly. And most of the time, and I get requests all the time, but what I do is I just put the articles that were accepted up on my ResearchGate as a open access free to view sort of situation. But a lot of people don't always know to do that either. So
Yeah.
if it's something that you want to bypass and the avenue just isn't there for open access, then you can set up a ResearchGate account or have somebody who does have a ResearchGate account reach out to an author, and generally they're going to be more than willing to share their research because none of us get paid. So we don't care. We will share our articles because we want them out there.
Exactly. I do have a research gate and I do that as well.
Yeah,
Most people don't know about that. And,
exactly.
no matter how many times I explain it or tell people, there's always going to be people that don't know. And the easiest way for people to access it, and it's clear in your downloads and, all that
Yes.
stuff and your citations even, is just making it open access. So as soon as they click it, they can be able to open it up and download it.
Yeah.
But that's not always available because if it's $3,390 per article, I mean, that's a lot of money, especially
Yeah.
for broke university professors such as ourselves.
My
No
question
offense.
is also no, no, yeah. My question is also out of that 3,000 whatever total, what is that money going to? Is there transparency with how those funds are distributed or who they go to? That's what my question is because it's like if I'm putting up a ton of money to have my research publicly available when I'm not even getting paid to do it, I would just like to know where that's going. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe we should start holding these publishers accountable and saying why. What does this money go to? We want full transparency or we refuse to pay it.
I wholeheartedly agree because when I'm a peer reviewer, that money isn't coming to me.
No, same.
When people buy the article, that money isn't coming to me.
Nope.
I don't even get an email saying someone bought my article. So
Exactly.
I really don't know, and that transparency would be wonderful.
Yeah. So, like, on the one hand, I get the perspective of I want it out there and the access and all of that because that is a barrier, obviously, that a lot of people have. But we also need to be challenging those systems in place and say, but why? So, the journal that you are getting the open access publication through, I'm actually considering emailing now and just being like, hey, I want to see full transparency as to what that money
Hmm.
goes to.
Yeah,
So if you're cool, I might actually reach out to them and just be like,
yeah.
"Hey, for instance, I know of a peer who is trying to seek open publication. So info would be great, and then you might see an update from Niraba on that."
Yeah, and you know what? The thing is, we want that information from every journal
Yeah,
because there's not just one place to
absolutely.
publish, and different journals have different prices too.
Yeah,
3,000 is
they
around
hang
the
around there. That's like
yeah,
a median, I feel.
yeah. So, but it's like why? Like, I feel like it costs them nothing to make it open access, but it's
Oh,
just maybe the money that
visually,
they yeah,
yeah.
the money that they potentially lose by making it open access. It's like, well, if it's $25 a download, or if it's $100 a download, like, how many downloads until we make it? You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
of it's like bottomless mimosa math. You know what I mean? How many mimosas do I have to drink
Yeah.
until
Oh my
I
gosh. My spouse is such a dork with that stuff because he's like the financial person. And I'm like, just drink the mimosa, okay? Like, just drink it and shut up. But he's like, well, I want to make it worth my while. I want to get my
yep,
money's
yep,
worth. And it's just like, oh
yep.
my God, you're such a nerd. But no, that's like when you say that, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's funny. Y'all are the same. You all really are. It's funny.
Well, I
Um,
mean, yeah.
I'm I'm definitely going to start emailing journals because I think that that is important, and I think that well, it's actually funny because complete redirection, but kind of also same on topic. Open open submissions are now available for APBA in 2027. And so a couple of years ago, I had applied and sent some ideas. I know, like, we've talked about some ideas, and then Apira and I have talked about some ideas. And historically, we had to be members to just submit a possible acceptance or rejection from APBA. And so I actually sent a message earlier this week and I was like, hey, in the past, I paid for membership, I submitted, and all of my submissions were rejected. And I didn't go to the conference. And so, not that my membership was worthless, but I didn't benefit from it in the way that I needed to for CEUs because I didn't want to pay to
Hmm.
go to the conference. I didn't want to, because all of that at the time would have been out of my own pocket. Academia. So, with that said, do I have to be a paid member to submit before I even know if it's accepted or not? Because that is a
Hmm.
huge barrier and gatekeeping. And so, depending on what they say, you might have an update from Nuraba on that because it's just like these journals. You know, we're going to put everything behind a paywall and we're going to make you have to do the thing. But we want to see if we can commit to people actually come to the conference who aren't presenting. It's just
Exactly.
a load of BS.
Yeah,
We'll
I
see.
think that I submitted last year, and I wasn't a member.
Okay.
And yeah, so I
So,
think you can submit without being a member nowadays.
good. That has
Yeah.
changed then, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
I
see.
might I might go. I don't know. I've been asked to be on a panel, but I was already on that panel, and they have so many people on the panel. I was like, y'all got it.
I'm telling you, we could do something if they accept it.
Yeah,
It's in Kansas City, so
yeah.
yeah.
No, I know. That's what I heard. I just gotta figure out. Do you know when it is?
The end of March, but
Okay,
dates. I mean, I can pull them up somewhere.
okay. No, that's fine. I just need my wedding,
Oh
April
yeah.
10th. So
Oh, it's well before that, but
okay,
March
yeah.
18th through 20th.
Okay, okay. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll
Because I'm
see.
trying to reduce the number of what is it called?
Professional engagements.
Yeah, professional conferences that I'm going to. Engagements, I feel like I have no control over that.
That's true.
Uh, but professional conferences, like I'm not. My plan is next year. I'm not going to ABAI. I want to move
No one
more
should.
towards. Yeah, I agree. I want to move more towards CEC and AERA, which are more educational journal academic conferences, and I'm trying to get into.
Right.
So we shall see.
Yeah, I support that, and I, as a big ABAI non-fan, I think that that's what everyone should be doing anyway. So go to state conferences, go to smaller conferences, go to conferences where voices are highlighted and amplified that you would not see at your regular ABAI or state conferences, even. The lack of diversity is simply appalling, and that's something that we continue to see in all these spaces where it's just the same white men over and over again presenting on the same topics over and over again. So try to go to some different conferences. Go to WEBA. I haven't been. Um, Go to
Yeah,
BMBA. Go to BABA. Go to all of these different conferences where you would normally not see the types of presentations amplified at your standard conference. And then we can use our dollar to tell them what we're actually looking for.
exactly. Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Okay, yeah, sorry to like reroute us completely because
No, you're good.
that was my call. Okay, yeah, so let's jump into you wanted to talk a little bit about preference versus skill set or ability or
Yeah, it's all good. I want to talk about how we move the field and our field specifically with our praxis. So there's many ways we do it. There's peer review, there's how we teach and shape students, there's our research, and then there's I think, our social media arm. So I think we can start with the students. Because we were talking and working together, and we were trying to help a student learn some more inclusive, accessible, non-ableist language. And they can't know that language unless we explain it to them, especially if they've read ableist language for a long time through research, and they think that this is acceptable, appropriate, and how they're supposed to write.
100%. And students will constantly throw at me, so I'll give feedback on something, and this could be relating to any type of area of like changing and modifying our frameworks. And students will say, well, I base this off of this article. And it's like, great, they're wrong. And let me tell you why they're wrong. Just because something gets published doesn't mean that it's correct. It means that it's a step in the evolution process, as we should continue to do as far as academic culture. And so, if the older the article, the more likely it's going to be wrong in the framework and the approach. The method itself might not necessarily be wrong, but there are ways we could still improve it. And that's the thing. It's like, do we want to continue to grow and evolve, or do we want to continue to stay in the status quo? If we stay in the status quo, then you're not actually doing research. So that might be a really good explanation as to your behavior, but it's not an excuse for your behavior. And we don't want to rely on, well, this article said it, so I assumed it was okay. BS. We're not going to use that. We're going to say, this is what they said, but here's how I want to make it better.
Yep, exactly. And I think that that goes into educating the student further on the way that we want the field to move, in the direction we want to move in. I remember this comment sticks with me a lot. This student said, this comment said on my Instagram, how can you be an abolitionist and still be in ABA? And well, I was like, well, I don't really see myself as part of the autism industrial complex because I'm a professor. I teach people who may work with autistic individuals or people with autism. But what I do when I teach them is I make sure that we talk about assent, and assent based treatment or instruction or methods, trauma informed care, all of these things that are important that have been lacking in the field for a long time. Talk about why it's important. Talk about the history of abuse. Talk about all these things to make sure that when they go out there, that they at least have been educated on what's right and what's wrong, problems, and all of these other things. Whereas if I just left, I can't be certain that somebody's going to fill my shoes that has the same ideologies and practices. And I already learned these things. And honestly, when I was learning these things, I didn't know a lot of what people were doing, because when you're a behavior tech, RBT or whatever, and you're going out there, a lot of the times you're on an island. You don't have any coworkers. You don't see anybody unless it's a training. I was just doing my own thing by myself. So when I heard about all these things that people are doing, I'm like, what in the world? So, I mean, yeah, so I think that those things are important. So that's how I kind of can be an abolitionist and be in this space, is because I'm changing it from what I'm doing and talking about. And honestly, I don't work with, just people with autism doing things that a lot of people that have problems with ABA think we do.
Yeah, totally. And there's a difference between systems within change and system outside of change. And so a lot of abolitionists are very outsider, and they advocate for change that way, and that's fine. That's wonderful. I think it's a much harder space to be in the systems within and try to promote change that way. And part of that is the challenge, because you are seen as a traitor basically in some spaces, especially the cognitive dissonance of being autistic and advocating within ABA spaces. And I want to be clear, I am not pro ABA in any way, shape, or form. I really am ashamed of ABA. Historically, current, all of it. I'm ashamed of a lot of BCBAs when I see them interact on social media spaces. It's just, it's gross. And so I want to be clear, when I'm in the system within, I'm not advocating ABA rules. I'm just saying, hey, this is an access, this is a privilege, And there are a lot of people who don't have a choice on other therapeutic methods because of the way legislation has been set up. And so I'm here to help channel that change in a way that's going to benefit those who don't have a choice and don't have an option and don't have power. And so that's what I've kind of had to reconcile with, because that cognitive dissonance, especially being autistic in ABA spaces, that will eat you alive. And I have tons of friends who can attest to that. So you have to really focus on how can I make these small changes? And it starts with our language. And, you know, you and I do a lot with papers and modeling within those types of structures, and just even communicating with students about the language that they're using and the framework of the language that they use is huge, especially those who are working within a medical model with insurance paying for the services that they're providing, because that medical model isn't going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, and abolition, at least in this context, is not going to just happen overnight. So, how do we dismantle the problematic systems while building necessary systems? Because for many people, ABA services are beneficial, which is why they continue to exist, right? So, it's not a black and white thing. There's complexity and nuance between the range of beneficial, helpful, trauma-informed, assent-based services and harmful, what is it called? Controlling, aversive, problematic services, right? There's a wide range. And, you know, it's not all just one is over here, one is over there. There can be, you know, differences between. So we have to look at that. We have to call it out. We have to dismantle and look at the problems that are problematic and then uplift and build the desirable stuff. So when we talk about we're changing the way that we teach students. So these are the practitioners going out there, right? Then there's also our arm of social media content where you see us continually challenging the way that it's talked about and done and how we discuss the problems in the field and around the field, right? And then there's peer review. I just had an article that I was peer reviewing and I had to call out some language that I noticed was ableist, and I explained it, and I didn't just say this is a problem. I said, here's a difference. So instead of typical, I said, you could say non-disabled, you know? I don't know, Robin, if you have other or more desirable words that you could use, but I just in that moment said, you could say non-disabled.
It's not a dirty word, no, absolutely. And that ultimately can kind of come with preference. But if you're talking about disability, which a lot of ABA research focuses on disability still, even though we know that that's not the only application,
Mm-hmm.
it does give some power back to the disability community to say non-disabled. So emphasis could be given in that regard, because if you're primary, it's like, you know, when we talk about how we use English and how we, you know, talk about the subject and the noun, we want
Mm-hmm.
to make everything about the noun. Well, I see like the disabled participants as the noun. So
Mm-hmm.
everything should be centered around that person, that perspective. And so being non-disabled would be a part of that experience. So you can definitely say non-disabled, you can say abled, whatever the case may be, but it's actually more empowering to challenge the status quo by doing that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So, like we're saying, you challenge it through social media, through students, through peer review, and then through our own research, where we're able to conduct research that provides a counter narrative to the contemporary argument, structure, system, or research that's out there that individuals can then cite, can then talk about, and it can permeate the space. These are ways that we actually do this through our academic integrity, through our work, through our passions. And people don't really see that or notice that or understand that who are outside of it, which I think is why it's so important to do some work inside it. And we can still at the same time advocate for different things. We can still fight against different things. We can really, you know, investigate and interrogate our own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and things that we were taught and learned. Because a lot of one thing that I'm learning is this one professor who was at one point he was one of my greatest examples of one of my greatest professors, and now he has provided a lot of non-examples of how to act as an academic, as a PhD, as somebody who is in the ABA space, as a moral, ethical human being. And I have to figure out, take what's useful, and then learn from what's not, and don't be that. Learn that as a good non-example.
It sucks because there are so many people, especially in ABA spaces, who are enabled to continue to practice in positions of power. And that is part of what Niraba has basically created a stance on, where it's like, why do you continue to platform these people? Why do you continue to give them space? Like, we know the harm that they're continuing to do and perpetuate, but yet you're still allowing it to happen. And so take back that power if you can and learn about it. I know, like, it's really tough because a lot of times people, especially with an ABA, they are so busy trying to like pass the exam, trying to become certified and all that. The last thing that they can do is go through the history of what one person has done and how their behavior is problematic. That's why we try to throw some of that out there so that people can be aware. But once again, it's so shocking that a lot of people aren't exposed to this. And that kind of starts with us as instructors. I will pull up an article in a course and say, hey, do you all know who these authors are? Let's actually digest what they have done. Let's look at some of their work,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's critically analyze with context and the background of these authors. And some people would say, oh, that's a little extra, Robin. You probably shouldn't be doing that. But I consider it amplifying the right or wrong voices. I don't want to amplify the ones, unless it's a non-example, to be clear. I don't want to amplify the wrong voices in a space where I'm trying to get good and change and all of that out there. So, that's just one example of many of the wrongs that could be happening. And, when it's explained, as you said, if we just provide correction, that doesn't necessarily teach. We have to use those opportunities to say, but here's why, and here's the
Mm-hmm.
relevance. Because, if people, I'm autistic, if you don't give me a why, I'm not even going to listen to you. So, like, if you're telling me to do something, that PDA kicks in, and I'm just like, not having it, unless it's a good reason that I support the value of.
Exactly. And it's not just, so many people think that correction just means telling someone that they're wrong. There needs to
Yeah.
be an explanation of a desirable alternative behavior as well. Now, it doesn't always mean that you have to, sometimes when you're teaching somebody, you're trying to walk them to the correct answer. So you don't always want to just tell them exactly what the right answer is, but you want to have some opportunity for learning there instead of just, you're wrong, you suck, boo. We need some type of like, hey,
Brother,
this
this guy stinks.
exactly. Like this behavior is not exactly where we want it to be. There's alternative, more desirable behaviors that are more accurate, and this is why. And let's get there. You know what I mean? And this is why it's important. That is a much better, more fruitful lesson that they can then share with others.
Yeah. And that's part of why I wanted to go into teaching at the higher level, because, I think we've talked about this before, where, I could be in a classroom setting and working with multiple clients or whatever and impact change all around, or I could teach multiple people in those settings and have a greater impact and more breadth. And
Exactly.
that's why I'm here. And that's why I do systems within.
Exactly. See, yeah. So I agree, and not every time, not all the time. I think do systems within work. There are some systems that I think that are inherently bad and problematic and just need abolition. And of course, it's not going to happen over time. Like from what I'm thinking of immediately is prisons and
Yeah.
policing. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't like working within like that ain't gonna cut it. Like you just there needs to be a complete shift in the system. This, however, I think that there were times when it was more beneficial, and then post Lovas and post Lovas, ABA really changed the game, and a lot of it's problematic. I'm not saying that there was nothing problematic before then, but the problems like really intensified after and during that time. And I think that behavior science could be beneficial and super helpful, but the way behavioral analysis has gone has so many problems with it that we really need to relook at the systems and structures and be like, this needs significant over.
Right. It's interesting as you were talking. I don't know why we didn't put this on the roster, but Jason Arday. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know if that's something because it's timing wise a little relevant. Now it's several days after the news, which is just super sombering. But we could definitely talk about that situation a little bit if we have the emotional space to do so.
I do. I have some pictures because I did a quick video on it, so I can kind of bring those in so we can kind of talk more
Because I feel like the
particularly.
conversation, kind of segues into some of that and the way that the system, especially academia, is
Yeah.
set up. Because let's be honest, the system failed. So,
Yes. So Jason Arday was a professor at Cambridge. He was the youngest professor, youngest black professor, and he was also autistic. That was given professorship at Cambridge University in London, right? And he resigned on August 5th with a letter stating that he had reached the limits of what any person should reasonably be expected to endure. They were saying that he had plagiarized. They were saying that he lied about his disability, about being nonverbal till the age of, I think, 7 or 11. And they even said that he lied about doing marathons, right? The media responded with 188 more articles in 9 days, and on the 14th of August, he was found dead at only 44 years old. So to give some graphical representation of the hounding, this is, before the resignation, there was a whole lot of articles. The resignation to death, these are the amount of articles. And then the day he died, the amount of articles all of these different news outlets sent. And he was accused of plagiarism with 249 articles from the UK media in 22 days. Peter Mandelson leaked sensitive UK government information to sex offender Epstein and only got 166 articles. And white Cambridge professor William O'Reilly found guilty of plagiarism in 2023 from his own students and had only 2 articles, and he wasn't
yuck,
even fired. He was just given a slap on the wrist for that.
yuck.
So there's a whole bunch of problems. Let me see. There's this one that actually discusses, it's a video, but of course the audio doesn't work for us. But basically, um, it talks about how his what they called plagiarism was just that he didn't cite
Correcting.
correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what the problem is, he didn't cite correctly, but then 14 times throughout it, he did cite that same article that he supposedly plagiarized incorrectly. So a lot of people are saying that it's a problem with the way that he was given supervision because they should have caught that. And you could see just in the Telegraph, war criminals get less scrutiny than this average university professor. So, I mean, there's a clear anti-blackness and racism within journalism in the UK. People think that in the UK that there's not this racism, this anti-black racism. It's like, yo, where do you think racism originated from? Like, you know what I mean? These Europeans are the ones that did it.
Who thinks
So
that? Like,
people that don't have to deal with it think it. You know what I mean? People that are
I
American that
guess.
don't have to deal with it.
Yuck.
They don't realize it. So, like I always say, that there's a anti-black word in every single language. There's a word for like the N word
Yeah.
towards that is derogatory towards black people in every language, which is wild to me. So you don't even have black people, but you have that word. So
Yeah, no
that
kidding.
is was Jason Arday. Rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's hard because the intersection here is being a black autistic person and then being in the system of academia, which we challenge a lot of the times. And so when this came out, I don't know, it just felt really targeted. And I'm definitely not black, but understanding those systems of oppression that exist, I was like, oh, this makes total sense. Like, I hate that that's where we came to, but I don't know. It just felt really targeted, and I don't know if you felt the same way, but it was a hard realization. They're all hard, but this one hit especially closer to home, which is just, I don't know. I could see any autistic or neurodivergent person also kind of having the same issues with citation and being falsely accused of plagiarism or AI use in today's world. And that's a teaching opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really, really sad. And I, uh, I wish it didn't happen. I think that it's also important to note, I forgot to note, here we go. The guy that really started a lot of it, Nathan Kofnas. He's the guy. This guy is a race realist, as he describes himself. He's the one that started a lot of the stuff about Jason being plagiarizing, not being good enough. So he said apparently he was recently suspended from the university, thinking that he will almost certainly fire him. So so
Good.
all of the articles were saying professor like that Nathan Kafkas was a professor at this university, but then I don't know if I have it. I guess I don't. But basically, it was found that he is not a professor. He's a postdoc, and everybody was calling this white guy who worked at this university a professor. So he failed upward, without even anybody knowing. Just they assume white guy working at a university must be a professor, and he was a postdoc. And for everybody in the chat that may not know, postdoc and professor are very different things who do very different jobs. If we were to say that there was a hierarchy, which hint, hint, there is,
Yeah.
that's not really discussed. Postdoc is down here, professors up here. Actually, professors up here. There's assistant professor, there's
Yeah.
associate
There's several
professor,
tiers.
there's, yeah, several tiers. Postdoc just means that you got a PhD, you're working at the university, you're doing research, you're probably teaching. I don't know. I've never been a postdoc.
Yeah. Like a TA
Um,
type thing.
yeah. So postdocs in the chat, let us know.
But that I hadn't known too much about him, and so I appreciate you sharing that information. But like, it's so interesting to me how heavily scrutinized a black man who's qualified goes through versus like the white man who just kind of floats to the top and doesn't get that same scrutiny. And yuck, it's just. But it's
Yeah.
Cambridge, right? So isn't
Yeah.
that Ivy League and
Exactly. I mean,
brick
and
and
this guy
mortar
was,
snooty?
yeah, and he was fired before for, for whatever. Who cares? You know what I
I was gonna say,
mean?
what else did he do?
Yeah.
Oh no, I
So
kind
I
of want to know
mean,
out of curiosity, just because I love to like shout it from the rooftops. But especially
exactly.
like white men who need to be held accountable, I love shouting their discrepancies from the rooftops.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times these individuals think that they have merit when they don't. You know what I mean? And there's that thing that black people are often told by their parents, you have to work twice as hard for half as much,
Yes.
which is absolutely true.
Yep.
And they'll say that we got there here through, or wherever we get, through merit or through DEI, when you what do you think white DEI is? Like how many white people are in positions where they don't have merit, they don't
Yep.
have nearly the same skill level ability, or what is it called, citations, or as much of a strong CV or resume, and still get the position. I mean, look at the person who's our president right now versus the black man
God.
who was the president back in 2018, 2008. It's just such a stark difference in level of skill, ability, and experience, knowledge, accolades. It's night and day. And yeah, yeah,
The working twice as hard for half as much, oh my god, that hits. And you see students when you do advising or when you chair projects or whatever, you see that struggle and it's systemic, and that's the part that sucks the most, because when I'm advising students who I know are going through hardships as a part of that system and the way that it's set up, it's like, what can you do? You just feel helpless. And I wish there was more we could do. But being in the spaces, continuing to advocate, I mean, that's kind of what I've had to resign is that's what I can do. And I'm just going to continue to do it and advocate. But it sucks. You want to do more.
I agree. I agree.
And, you're talking about like being eligible and having like specific qualifications to do a job. It makes me think of once I'm full of topic shifts today. It makes me think of like RFK Jr. and being in charge of like the CDC and well, not the CDC, but like basically food
Yeah.
regulations and stuff like that. How many recalls have we had this year on like seemingly normally healthy foods and like foodborne illnesses are like up 400% or something, and it's outrageous. And it's like, as a vegan who appreciates bagged lettuce and like vegetables and fruits and everything, it's been like a minefield out there this year.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's because we've rolled back on some of those protections and safety, all in the favor of like, well, we don't want people to have autism and we don't want to have these illnesses, but yet we're cool with measles and like polio, and it's
From
like,
a guy
what is
who's
going on?
severely underqualified to be America's
Right,
doctor, because he's not
right.
even a
That's where we
doctor,
are.
not in any
But he's
sense of the
white.
term.
He's white,
But
so he's
he's white,
qualified, Jared. You
and
know
he's got that
this.
last name too. You know what I mean?
He's one of the
Double,
Kennedys.
double
We're not going to talk about
intersection of
which Kennedy.
privilege.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter which branch of the Kennedy family he's from. He's a Kennedy, and that's all that matters. And God,
My God.
that's what it makes me think of. It's like, but that's the thing. He just kind of floated his way to this position, and like here we have explosive diarrhea now because of him. So good luck, society.
Yeah. It sucks. It's the way it is. And I think that it's interesting how like white supremacy culture and that ideology harms everybody,
Everybody.
and you have to really really dissect it for a lot of white people to see it, and even then they won't see it because they're like, well, it's harming those black and brown people, so it's
It harms
fine for
white people
me.
too, though. Like, that's
Exactly.
like, how do you not see this? It's like they don't care about you. If you don't have money, and if you don't have that power, and if you don't have privilege, and you're not connected, and even if you are connected, arguably, they don't care about you. They
Yeah.
don't. And you are just a pawn to continue to get the elite what the elite want. Period. Full stop.
Yeah. I mean,
How is this so hard to see?
I agree. I would love if, like, just for 4 years, real quick, if black
Just for
people who
four
are
years.
on code, black people who are on code, so it means that you're not a COON, were able to run the country and see how much everybody's uplifted, just because the people who follow the black radical tradition are really about making sure everybody gets access. Like, even if you hate my guts, I want you to be able to access free healthcare.
Yeah,
You
right.
know what I mean? We should all be able to have that.
I don't get the hate. I really don't.
No, me
I that
neither.
Yeah, and it goes back to the whole argument of I remember seeing it a lot with student loan forgiveness when Biden was trying to like, get some of that pushed through Congress, and people were like, "Well, I had to pay off mine." It's like, but I paid off mine. My spouse paid off his. That doesn't mean that we don't think that financial aid is a overused resource because of the tuition costs that keep going up and exploiting students at a vulnerable age of early adulthood. Like, that doesn't
Exactly.
mean anything. Like, all it just means is that you're a jerk. Like,
It's a terrible argument about I suffer so you should. It's like saying, well,
yeah,
back in the 1920s they had polio, so should
exactly.
you. Like, it's the same
Exactly.
argument. You can't show me that it's different. It's rooted in selfishness, stupidity, ignorance,
White
and for
supremacy.
lack of
White supremacy, too.
white supremacy, and also lack of empathy. And it just
Right.
pisses me off to no end. And instead of being more angry, I want to show you some pictures. So
We
this is
always get
unplanned.
onto the anger. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
this is
have it.
unplanned, but somebody recently in a TikTok said that the last smart board in their school went to the trash. I don't know if you remember smart boards, but they're
I
like
do.
the whiteboards that you can actually write
Yeah.
on. So people are using like Promethean boards, all these new things, right?
I'm so out of touch with that.
This is what let me know. Does this bring you back?
Oh, God. Did you see my jerk?
So
I'm
overhead
waiting for you to wheel in
projectors.
that TV with Bill Nye now. Like, what's going on? Oh my God. How did you have that ready? That's
Yes,
hilarious.
this was in the comments. Like I'm this old, right? I remember one time we were supposed to watch a movie, and my teacher. This is sixth grade. I'm not that old. This is in the early 2000s.
No,
My
you are
teacher
young
said
compared to me.
we're gonna watch the movie Ben Hur on Betamax. And I didn't know what any of those words were. So this is the early 2000s. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention of, we're this old and kids will never know or understand.
I would have thought you would have been more into the, like, earlier smartboard technology. I don't, well, you were probably doing, we were still doing chalkboards at my age. And
We
I
had whiteboards.
explicitly, yeah, so I didn't have whiteboards. And that was we had the old school chalkboard, and like being autistic, undiagnosed, the chalkboard made me absolutely feral. I really wish I would have known, but you could hear everything. Dry erase boards were significantly better. That was when I started consulting, and so I just remember, man, I really wish we could have had those whiteboards when I was in school. And then I thought smartboards were kind of cool, but I'm shocked to hear that we're no longer using the smartboards. So you said it was a Prometheus board?
Promethean board, I
Promethean board.
believe. It's basically an updated smart board that doesn't need to always calibrate, and it's like so much better. It does all these other things. I haven't, been able to use them. When I was at Penn State getting my PhD, we had chalkboards, and I made it a point every time I could to write on the chalkboard. I would bring chalk myself because there wouldn't always be chalk, and then I would also, yeah, I know. Now that I'm thinking about how you're feeling, I should have done something different, maybe. But
No,
like,
you're
I would
fine.
bring different colored chalk, and then I would
Oh,
have
that's
like
fun.
exercises, yeah, where people had to write on the board, and they would have to like write something, and then we would go over it, and they would look at other people's and talk with each other. So it was like a whole exercise to kind of get them up and engaged and everything. But
That's
yeah,
so
I just wanted to,
1990 of you. Like, why would
yeah,
you? God, I just feel so old. And I guess there was like a thing online that I saw the other day, and it was like, hey, if you graduate or if you were born in, what was it, 2005, you can now drink. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what? What? I can now drink for two lifetimes. And like that is the most depressing thing. Like my drinking is now aged to the point where it could become a drinker. And it's just
drinking
like,
for two.
I feel so old. But the nice thing is that I get carded a lot, and people are like, I don't believe when I look at your ID that you are the age you are. I'm like, I am. Challenge me. Ask me trivia. Do the thing. I lived it. But like, oh my gosh,
There's
it'll happen,
something
kids.
worse.
Oh
I
no.
don't know if you know about this. During COVID, because kids couldn't take the driver's test like typical, they basically just had to they had to take a test, like a written test, and then they had to get their parents to sign off that they had done the required hours of driving, and then they were given a license. So to this day, there are people driving around that never had to actually pass a driver's test for like actually the driving part of the test.
That explains so much, though. If you drive, I. But also, I have thoughts, but I'm not. I'm not gonna get into those. But you also start noticing drivers look younger and younger. I'm like, that kid is
Oh.
clearly 12 years old. Why is he operating a motor vehicle? And then my spouse will be like, oh, he's at least 15, Robin. It's okay. My heart, like,
I get in
and
the other lane.
oh my my god, it's so bad. Like I literally see these kids look younger and younger. I'm like, this is what everybody was doing to us, and they'd be like, oh, they've grown so much. Like now we're saying those things, and like when does that
Hmm.
shift happen? Like when did that become a thing? How did we become the old people? And I say we, you are younger than me by almost like a decade, but still, like I like to stay afloat. I'm on TikTok, I'm relevant.
No, I get it. I agree. I also think that people that when we were young, when they were our age, they were older. Like they were visibly like
Well,
emotionally, spiritually older, I feel like. But when in my comment section, people are calling me Unc. And nowadays, I'm like, fine, I'm Unc. I don't care. Like one kid
unk.
was like,
Like
yeah, one
uncle.
kid, yeah, he
Okay.
was like, in the comment section of one video when we were talking about uh, quote unquote Dr. Bryant. I was like, oh, you know who we're talking about? And he was like, we don't know who you're talking about, Unc. And I'm like, if you don't know what we're talking about, then the message isn't for you, nephew. Most people get it though, because he was the only one that didn't get it
Nephew.
in the comments. So I was like, I'll roll with it. I'm fine with it at this point.
I'm looking that up now. Okay. Okay, originated in African American Vernacular English, AAVA, as a term of respect or affection for older men. Okay, so it doesn't mean necessarily that you were old. It just means that you were older than the person who the perspective is coming from.
Exactly.
So,
But I mean, I have to be Unc now when I was brother, I was brother, or I
yeah,
was, cousin.
yeah,
Now I'm Unc. I've been, and then
there's a
someone is
stigma.
yeah, then it's gonna be grandpa. you know.
It'll be like Gramps. It won't be like
Yep.
Grandpa. It'll be Gramps or like
Yep.
Granddad or
Let's get
stuff
you
like
back
that.
to the old folks.
No kidding. Like you see those memes all the time where it's like, back in my day, we had to do this and oh, it's all right, Grandma. We'll put you to bed. But we're
Yeah,
gonna have the
there's
best retirement homes. We really will.
we will. There was one that said, we used to have computers and they were all in a room and we had to go to computer class. Like, okay, Gramps, let's
Okay,
get you.
Grandpa. Let's get you back to bed. Let's get your
But
meds. We had to
because
have
of that,
class to learn how to use the computer.
yeah, because of that,
God.
our old folks homes are going to be so lit. We're going to be playing video game. We're
Yeah,
going to be
that's
chilling.
true.
I'm not going to like, oh, visit. Oh, okay. I guess I'll put the game down for a little bit and attend to you.
I guess. Like, why are you visiting? I didn't ask you to come.
FaceTime me.
Yeah, I mean, and what's funny, so I don't have kids, but I have
Hmm.
friends who have kids and everything, and I feel like the generation that kind of raised us is kind of a 50-50 on if we talk to our parents or not, because there was a lot of like emotional instability, a lot of lack of emotional intelligence, all that sort of thing. It's a thing. So
Yeah.
half of the people I probably have around my age are disowned or like do not have any sort of. I don't know if you're like in a similar. I know you're not personally, but like I don't know
Yeah,
if you know of a lot of people who are in a similar situation.
I do.
I don't feel like a lot of our generation will have that because I'm seeing how they're raising their kids, which is very
Hmm.
different. And it's a lot more emotionally intelligent, a lot more autonomy driven, but also like I support you still. And I had friends who were closeted gay, and they were treated as badly as you could probably expect a gay kid in the 90s was treated,
Yeah,
and they don't talk to their parents anymore, in part probably because of how they were treated. And
exactly.
yeah, I don't see as much of that with our generation. So we would probably actually have our kids wanting to come visit, but we'd be like, "Yeah, our job's done. What are you doing?"
Yeah,
we
yeah, no,
Grand Theft Auto 6 finally came out, so we need to play it.
exactly. We're waiting for Grand Theft Auto 7. We'll be in the old folks' home
Grand Theft
waiting
Auto
for 7.
6.5.
Exactly.
God, speaking of, I need to
Oh,
get that PlayStation. Anyway,
yeah.
I always have to bring it back to Grand Theft Auto 6.
I'm fine with it. The leaker has been leaking stuff. I don't really care at this
The
point. It's
leaker
like
leaking.
whatever. You know what I mean? They're gonna show us gameplay. They're not gonna show us gameplay. I'm getting the game. I'm not pre-ordering it, but I'm gonna get it. I'll
Yeah, I'm
download
not
it.
pre-ordering.
Yeah, and then I'll call out. I'll be sick for a few days or whatever, got that GTA flu.
GTA flu. It's funny. I think you and I are the only ones in our department who would be gone for those few days, and I like that about us. I think our
Same.
priorities are clear.
Exactly. So, and the thing is, what we would do is we would front load all of the work
Yeah, exactly.
beforehand,
So that we
and
don't
then
have to respond.
exactly,
Exactly. Make our environment a little more successful. I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing as behavioral scientists. So why would we not be doing that?
exactly. And on that note, like, comment, subscribe, share, comment to a friend.
To an enemy, period.
Yep, exactly.